so as I was saying, you know, sometimes the issue is that your computer's slow just because the hardware is really old and there's not much you can do about that. But in the case where it's the actual software, so the programs or whatever else you have running on your computer that's causing it to slow down, there are things we can do about that to speed things up. So we're going to go over that. We're going to be covering both Windows and Mac. So let us get started. So essentially, as I was saying, we're going to look at the non-technical ways to speed up your computer. So we'll talk about how to speed up a Windows 10 PC and also how to speed up a Mac. So there are some kind of simple solutions that can potentially speed things up. So for example, especially for those of you using Chrome or Safari, frankly, where you have multiple tabs open in your web browser, this can actually slow your computer down. So if you have, and I am guilty of this, by the way, if you have, you know, 15 different tabs open in your Chrome web browser, that can really slow things down. So one way to kind of quickly speed your computer up is to close any of those unused tabs. If it's something that you want to return to later, then you can bookmark it and go back to that. But having a bunch of things open at the same time, generally speaking, is going to slow your computer down. So that's one quick, simple fix. Another thing that's very important is regularly updating your computer software. So we'll go over how you know if your computer needs to be updated, but with Windows updates, you'll usually get a notification of that. It's good practice to keep those updates, you know, when they're pushed to you, install them kind of thing. Oh wait, was there actually supposed to be a note to know if your computer needs updating? Well, at any rate, you should get a notification. If you're on a Windows 10 computer, for example, you will get a notification saying Windows needs to update. They're pretty good about blatantly telling you and kind of, in some cases, forcing the updates on you. So you don't really typically have much choice to install them. It's more when you install them, but make sure that you do. Okay, so yeah, so that's one thing that's very important. Another thing that's good practice is to try and keep hard drive space open. So if you have a lot of old photos or videos or music or just big files that are taking up space on your computer, it's good practice to either upload those to a cloud drive. So for example, if you have OneDrive on the Windows 10 computer, or iCloud, I think it's called for Mac computer, or Google Drive, which we did a session on previously, uploading any of those old photos or videos onto a cloud drive is one way to clear up your hard drive space. Also, you can get an external hard drive, which you plug into your computer, and you can move files off your computer that way. So essentially, the idea being that you want to kind of keep the space on your computer itself fairly open. If you have too many files saved, that can kind of make things chug along a little bit. Also very important is to try and shut down or restart your computer at least once a week. So this is for a couple of reasons. One of them being that if there are any updates that need to install, you do need to restart your computer in order for it to go through the update process. Another is just basically, without getting too technical, if you're leaving your computer on too long, there can be some issues with the memory. So something, in fact, that I often suggest to people if they're finding that their internet's really slow or their computer's running really slow, or it just seems like everything's slow, is to try a restart and just kind of see if that fixes things or at least speeds them up a bit. So, so try to do that at least once a week. I tend to shut my computer down every night just because I like to make sure that I'm kind of getting a fresh start every time I start it up again. But definitely at least once a week is good practice. All right, so we'll start by talking about how to speed up a Windows 10 computer. So Keshava is going to take over showing you guys the demo for how to speed up a Mac computer. I don't use Macs. I don't really know a lot of the technical details about how to run a Mac, so I'm going to kind of leave that to someone who's more of an expert. But with respect to Windows 10, so I guess we'll do the demo after I've kind of explained it, sort of thing. So something that you can do to basically speed up your Windows 10, if you go into the Start button, so the little icon at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and go to Settings. So again, we'll go over this in the live demo, but there should be a button called Settings. If you click that, and go into System Notifications and Actions. You can scroll down to this little, you'll see it circled right here in red, this checkbox that says get tips, tricks, and suggestions as you use Windows. So if you select that, sorry, I'm just trying to follow along on my side screen so that I make sure that I'm giving accurate. Oh, on my screen it's different. So we'll go over that when we do the live demo. If you're kind of new to Windows 10, or you just want to get some quick tips and tricks on how to speed things up if you're experiencing slowdowns or other issues with your computer, this could be a good little notification to turn on. So another thing that's really important to do with Windows 10 is to uninstall any apps or programs that you're not using. So this is kind of in the same vein as getting rid of things off your hard drive that, like photos and videos that are taking up space. Apps and programs will take up space as well. They might also start when you start your computer. So that's something we can potentially cover in the demo as well. But essentially, the way that you would do this is you would go into apps and features, which again, we'll kind of cover in the demo, and you can go through the list of all the apps and programs that you have installed and uninstall anything that you haven't been using. So you can see when things were last accessed. So it'll actually tell you basically if you've been using something or not, because you'll see, oh, I haven't opened this program since 6 months ago. So that's one way to kind of clear things up. And get rid of things that you're not using off your computer. So it's kind of like spring cleaning, you gotta upkeep your device and make sure you're getting rid of things you're not using, throwing away, the old and just keeping the new. It's just kind of standard practice. So another thing you can look at as well with the Windows 10 is changing your power settings. So to do this, you would launch the control panel. So again, you'd click on the little start button at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. You can either access it by going into settings. Also, if you just start typing, you can usually search it. So for example, you could just type in control panel and it should be the first thing that pops up. But in control panel, if you go into hardware and sound and then into power options, you'll have these options that come up here on this little screenshot that I have. So the different power options, so like for example, if you're on a laptop computer, there's a power option that'll basically make your computer slower in exchange for getting more battery life out of it. So for example, the power saver mode will reduce your computer's performance where it can, and then the offshoot of that being that you'll get more battery life out of it. But if you're noticing that that's slowing your computer down a lot, then that might not be a setting that you want to have on. You might want to switch it to balanced or to high performance, for example, so that it's not going to slow your PC down when you don't really need it to. That's especially true if you have it plugged in most of the time. You don't need it to last the full 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever your battery is. So that's one thing that you can change that could be a quick fix to speed your computer up for Windows 10. So that's one. So again, this is just the different settings. So high performance would be like the fastest speed, but it's also going to drain your battery life the quickest. Balanced kind of tries to strike that balance between speed and power usage. So that's usually what I've had my laptop setting on whenever like I'm trying to take notes in class or something. And then power saver basically will slow down some of the hardware in your computer to try and get the most battery life out of it. So that's great when your laptop is about to die, but that can really slow things down. I've certainly noticed that on my laptop, which is like 8 years old now. So if I put it on power saver, sure, the battery will last 2 hours, but can I get anything done on it? Not really. So that's just like a good FYI to change the power settings if you're noticing your laptop is a bit sluggish. Okay, so we'll go into ways to speed up a Mac. I can talk about them because this isn't the demo part. But again, once we switch to the demo, I'll get Keshav to just share his screen for that.
Yep.
Okay, so ways to speed up a Mac. So this actually also applies to a Windows 10 computer. So it's good to clean your trash bin or your recycle bin So basically, you can find the trash bin on your desktop, I believe, for Macs, or in the lower bar of your screen. And you should be able to just right-click it and select empty trash. So that'll just get rid of any files that are basically stored there, like waiting for you to permanently delete them off your computer. So if ever, say you have like a document on your computer and you delete it, it goes to your trash bin. So it's not gone forever until you remove it from your trash bin. So if there is something in there that you do want gone forever and your computer's slow, it's a good idea to go ahead and empty trash. Getting rid of desktop clutter is also one way to speed up your Mac. So every item that you have on the dock or the desktop of your MacBook or your Mac computer, it's basically another image that the computer has to display. So the more you get rid of, the less images the computer has to display, and then that can help speed it up a bit. So essentially what you can do is you can right click one of those images, so one of those apps that are in the dock there, and click remove from dock anymore. So that should help kind of speed things up a bit if you're experiencing a lot of slowdown. So another thing, so this is in the same vein as getting rid of open tabs. So when we were talking about web browsers, if you have 70 tabs open, that's going to slow your computer down, especially with Chrome. Chrome eats up battery life, and it eats up like RAM on your computer like crazy. So make sure that you don't have a ton of tabs open, and also make sure you don't have a ton of apps open. So if you got your web browser open, you've got maybe you have 3 different web browsers open, you have Facebook open, you've got iMessage, you've got, I don't know, Minesweeper. I'm just like pulling up things out of my butt here, but you've got your Word open as well. You got a bunch of different programs open. All of that is going to eat up basically CPU on your computer. So what you want to do is make sure you minimize how many apps you have open. So for the Mac, what you would do is anything that you have open, if you go and right click the icon in the dock and then select quit, or similarly on the top menu bar of the program itself, you can close the app. That is one way to kind of speed things up. So don't have a ton of things running, especially if your computer is older. It's going to slow it down inevitably. And especially, I think this is easy to do on Macs too, because they kind of like, they hide, the windows are easily hidden, so you don't necessarily notice that you have a ton of things open. But yeah, that's one way you can kind of go ahead and speed things up a bit. Restarting your computer will also handle this because it's going to close all of those apps that you have open. So that's kind of like the hard reset button if this is really causing you problems. So similarly as well to when we were talking about removing apps off your Windows 10 computer, that is also something that you should do off of your MacBook or your iMac. So uninstalling any unused apps. So the way you would do this on a Mac is just to simply drag them into the trash bin. So it looks like we're getting rid of Spotify here. So you just would literally drag that icon and dump that into the trash bin. As well, so deleting large and unnecessary files. So oftentimes bigger files will be things like, I don't know, maybe you have a movie or some music on your computer that you don't need anymore. Photos can get quite large as well. So one way you can check this on your Mac is to go to the Apple menu. There should be a little statement that says about this Mac. If you click that and then click storage, you can go ahead and find a button that says manage and go to your downloads folder. So as I was saying, a lot of the time these unnecessary files will be things like downloads. Maybe you've downloaded a bunch of PDFs that you viewed once and now you don't need them anymore. So if you go into that downloads folder, you should be able to see kind of what your biggest space wasters are and get rid of those accordingly. So this, again, it's not like a quick fix. You kind of have to manually go through and look at the files and see which ones you want to keep and which ones you don't. Instead of deleting them, you might decide that you want to put them on your cloud or that you want to put them on an external hard drive. But this is just a good way to kind of see where your storage is being used and decide then what you want to do with those files. All right, So talking about it, I think, is a lot more abstract than actually seeing these things in practice. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to show you for a Windows 10 computer how we can speed things up a bit. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can get that set up. So just 1 second. So I'm not running on a laptop, so I won't be able to show you guys the, like, I guess I can still show you the power settings. It just might not show you a whole lot. So, all right. Can you guys see my screen? Hopefully just the one.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, awesome. All right, so let's just go through really quick some of the things that I'd already covered. So I had been mentioning before that there's that like tips and tricks suggestions here that I was talking about. So the way you would access that, so again, if you click on the start menu in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and then you go into settings. Oops, that opened in a different screen. There we go. Yeah, so you go into settings, and then you go into system notifications and actions, which I'm not seeing here verbatim, but it is the systems button. So system and then notifications and actions. So if you scroll down, oh, mine looks different. I must have, oh, there it is. Okay. So it looks slightly different on mine. I have a different version of Windows than the one where this screenshot was taken, but basically something you can turn on here is the show me tips about Windows, or it might look like, oh, it might say get tips, tricks, and suggestions as you use Windows for you, depending on what version of Windows 10 you're running. But at any rate, if you flip that on, it will give you notifications here and there about how you can speed up your computer or save space. I really recommend you turn that on if you're not familiar with the Windows 10 operating system. That might help guide you toward certain actions that might help speed up your computer. So that was just one thing. I'm going to turn it off. I don't really like getting notifications, so I'm just going to leave that shut down for now. So that was how to turn on the notifications. So how to uninstall apps. So basically, I'm already in this settings menu, but let's pretend that I'm not. So the way you would go and find the apps that you have installed on your computer, you'd again click that start button, you'd click settings, and then it should be under system, and then under apps and features. So if I click that, it'll give me a full list of everything I have, all the apps that I have installed on my computer. Like I was saying, you can actually sort this by install date. So for example, if you want to see like some really old programs that you have installed on your computer that maybe you don't use anymore, you could potentially sort it that way. You can search for a specific app if you'd like, but essentially this is a good way to you know, go through and delete things that you don't need anymore, or uninstall apps you don't need anymore. So all you would do for that, so I don't want to uninstall anything right now, but all you would do for that is you would click on whichever app you'd like to uninstall, and then click uninstall, and it'll open up the uninstall menu. It might ask you if you want to keep your save files or something, depending on what you're uninstalling, but it should be pretty straightforward at that point. So that was how you uninstall apps. So the power settings was the other one I talked about. So again, I'm on a desktop computer, not a laptop, so we might not really see a whole lot come up for that. But again, you would click on the start menu, and we want to go into control panel, which there's a couple ways you can get there. One way that I find the easiest is when you open up the start menu, there's this little search bar at the bottom. You can quite literally just type in control panel and it'll pop up. So I recommend just doing that instead of trying to find it in the menus. So I will click on control panel. So from here, it should be under, I think it's hardware and sound, and then power options. So right now you see I have mine set to balanced. So again, that's just kind of finding the balance between getting the most out of your computer and also not using up too much energy. I'm on a desktop, so I don't have a battery. So I'm kind of surprised this isn't just on high performance for me, but maybe I was just trying to save some hydro bills or whatever. But anyway, so you can take a look at specifically what that plan does if you go into change plan settings. So usually I think it'll just, if for a desktop computer anyway, it'll just say things like, oh, it'll turn your computer monitor display off if it's not been used for 10 minutes or something, or it'll put the computer to sleep after 20 minutes. So it's probably why I actually had it on balanced, because I wanted my computer to go to sleep if I wasn't touching it for 20 minutes. But yeah, so that's kind of how you can take a look at the different power settings. This is probably more useful to those of you who are on a laptop, because like I said, you might want to set it to power saver if your computer's about to die. Or if you have your computer plugged in, you might actually want to flip it to high performance mode. And I believe if you do actually have a laptop, there's usually a way that you can tell it if it's plugged in, set it to high performance. If it's running on battery, set it to power saver or balanced. I can't show you guys that right now because I have a desktop and it's not giving me those options. But yeah, so just to kind of inform you that that is potentially another option that you'll have if you're on a laptop. And I believe that was all. Hold on, let me see if there's anything else. Because I had some speaker notes here too. Oh, yes, okay. So if you're finding that your computer is just like, it's breaking down, like nothing is getting a lot of freezing happening, nothing's going quickly, you can also just shut down any programs that you currently have running. So a way you can do that is by opening Task Manager. So Task Manager is going to show you all of the processes, all of the programs that you have running at the moment. So there's a couple ways you can access Task Manager. I usually will go to this bottom taskbar, so this bar at the bottom of my screen. I right click that and click Task Manager, and that will open Task Manager for me. The other way you can do it, and I don't know if it's going to show you guys, it might not share screen, but you can click Control Alt Delete. Again, I don't know if you saw that, but on your keyboard, you'll see Control, Alt, Delete are three keys that you click at the same time, and that will basically open up or it'll bring up a screen and you can then select Task Manager. But I think the easiest way is honestly just to right click on the taskbar and click Task Manager. So this is what Task Manager looks like. So essentially, I think mine's in, yeah, so yours will look like this. I had mine in more details mode, but you probably just want to look at it like this. So right now I only have a couple of apps open. Say your computer's having a meltdown. Maybe you want to stop Google Chrome from working or shut Google Chrome down. So what you would do is you would select Google Chrome and you'd hit End Task, and it will forcibly shut that app down. So just bear in mind if you have anything that you're in the middle of, you might lose that data. You might lose the tabs that you had open that maybe you didn't bookmark. It does just like shut whatever it is down. So just bear that in mind. Similarly, like if you're working in Word or something and you're typing up a document and you didn't save it, but it's crashing and you just want to shut it down because your computer's having a meltdown and you shut it down through Task Manager, you might lose whatever you were working on. So this is kind of like the oh crap button. So don't necessarily use it if you're worried about losing information, but it can certainly help to free up some space on your computer if you're having issues, if it's really chugging along. So that's Task Manager. And actually, if you do hit the more details, so again, it'll look like this when you first open Task Manager, but if you hit more details, you'll see some information as to like how much CPU, so CPU is like the brain of your computer, so how much CPU something's using up or how much memory it's using up. The more memory and CPU are being used, the slower your computer will be. So right now I'm running pretty cool at like 60% CPU and only 30-ish% memory. If I wanted to see what's kind of using up the most CPU, for example, I can just click on that and it'll arrange all my programs in order of what's using up the most CPU, or for example, memory, same idea. So Google Chrome uses a lot of memory. So like I said, don't have a bunch of tabs open or this 30% can skyrocket and you might notice your computer going really slow. All right, so that's Task Manager. I guess we can also go into Performance Manager, which, okay, wait, is that the default one? I don't remember if I have like my own Performance Manager. Okay, no, I don't. Okay, so the way we would get into Performance Manager, again, I think the easiest thing to do is to just click on your start bar or your start button and then type in Performance Monitor or Manager and just click Performance Monitor, which comes up. So, sorry, so Performance Monitor is just a way that you can see essentially like how your computer is doing over time. So if I have this open, it's going to give me this cool little line graph that will show me, I believe it's showing me CPU. Yeah, it's showing me my computer processor, my CPU right now, and it's showing me over time, you know, how that's doing, how much of it I'm using up. So something like this is a good way that you can kind of, even if you don't totally understand what's happening, you can kind of get an idea as to like when these spikes are happening. So if I'm opening up a bunch of things in Chrome, for example, you might see that this suddenly spikes up and I notice that my performance is going down. So that's one way you can kind of get an idea as to how your computer is performing. I don't know if there's much in here that I would necessarily want to go over because it's sort of maybe a little bit more advanced. And I can't access disk cleanup from here. That's fun. Okay, cool. But at any rate, so this is just one way you can kind of have a look at your computer performance. But as I was mentioning too, you can also see that in Task Manager. So just a little FYI, if you click those more details, you'll be able to see as well. And then lastly, how to empty the trash. So on a Windows computer, we call it a recycle bin. On a Mac, it's the trash. Same principle. So if you go ahead and find your recycle bin. So for me, I have it on my desktop. It might not be on your desktop for you necessarily. I'm trying to think of how else you find it if it's not. Well, if anyone does have that issue or they can't find it, we can talk about it in the Q&A session. But it should be on your desktop, I believe. So you can go ahead and find your recycle bin on the desktop. If you right-click it, you'll see this option, Empty Recycle Bin. So again, what that does is it gets rid of any files that are currently stored there. So when you delete something, it goes to your recycle bin. It still exists until you empty your recycle bin. So you can check out what's in there. I'm not going to because I don't know what's in my recycle bin. But anyway, you can open it and just take a look at whatever files are there, and you can actually individually click on them and say, okay, let's get rid of this permanently. If there's something that you want to keep in there just in case you change your mind, that's one way you can go about it. So either empty your recycle bin or double click it and then go in and individually right click and get rid of things. So that basically covers the basics for Windows 10. So I'm going to pass it over to Keshav to show you guys some of the some of the tricks for Mac. So let me just stop sharing my screen here. Or was I not sharing my screen this whole time?
Yeah.
Again?
No, you were sharing.
Oh, I was. Okay. I was like, dang.
Yeah.
I'm really on top of it today, guys. All right. All right. Thank you. So take it away, Keshav.
Awesome. I'll just share my screen now. All right, so you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So the first thing that I'll go over for learning how to speed up your MacBook would be to use the activity monitor to either start or stop a process that can be something like an app running. So to do this, the easiest way is to use your keyboard commands. And the command is very simple. It's just command on your keyboard and then space. Over here, you'll get into the Spotlight search field, and then you can type in activity monitor. And this is very similar to that graph that we saw on the Windows 10 demo. And over here, it'll give you an overview of what's running on your computer. And from here, you can select from the app what you would like to close by simply clicking this X, and it'll force a close on any system that's running on your Mac. And next, we'll go over how to clear storage using documents that are taking space in your iCloud. And to do this, you can go to your Finder, which will be the first thing that appears on your dock. And from here, you can go to the Locations tab and go to iCloud Drive. I don't use this desktop for my iCloud storage, but should you store any of your files on iCloud, it'll prompt you here to access any files that you have stored. And from here, you can simply delete any files that you no longer want stored on your local iCloud storage, as if you would delete any other regular downloads that you have, by simply selecting them and either right-clicking and clicking Move to Trash, or just hitting backspace on your computer to delete. And to manually delete a file, as I just said, just select and hit backspace or right-click and select Trash. To manually delete files from trash, which are files that you've deleted from the Finder or another source, you would simply click on the trash bin that's on your dock, and from here you can select anything you would like to delete and delete it permanently. But it's important to understand that this action cannot be undone, so you should be sure before you delete anything or have backups of any files. Another very important thing to know with Mac is that when you open various amounts of app and then attempt to close their window, as I just opened them, if I close their window, the app itself won't be closed. So I just closed the window for the iTunes app, but as you can see, there's these little circles that indicate whether the app is on or off in your system, and when there is a dot, it means it's on. So even though I closed the window, the app isn't closed. And to close it, I would have to right-click and then hit quit on the app. And then that circle disappears. And you can do this for any amount of apps that you're not using. Okay, moving on, you can even force a close on an app using the Apple menu in case an app wouldn't close by right-clicking on it, like so. And to do this, you would access the Apple menu, which is on the top left of your screen. And then from here, you can hit force quit, and this will quit the application that you're currently using. So right now I'm currently on Zoom. So if I hit this, it'll close my Zoom, but of course I do not want to do that right now. And from the Finder, you can also close apps in case this option doesn't work in closing your apps. So from here, you can use another very helpful keyboard shortcut, which is similar to Control-Alt-Delete on Windows computers. For Mac, it'll be Option Command and then Escape. From here, you can either relaunch apps if they're not working correctly, and if an app doesn't respond as it's saying up top, you can force a quit on it, and this will increase your processing speed as you go through apps and delete them. So I only have these two apps, so I can and it's important to know that for the Finder, you can never force a quit or quit the app. So your Finder is the only app on your Mac that'll always be open. So if I try right-clicking on it as we went over before, I'll only be able to hide it from the dock and not actually quit the app. But for any other app, like right now I'm on Zoom, I can force quit from this menu. And yep, so that concludes our demonstration for learning how to speed up your MacBook.